Welcome back to one of our videos. This time we can see details. We can see details and know our location, Honduras, for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. Our Honduras localization is aimed to complement the basic standard functionality with developments aimed at fulfilling fiscal and accounting requirements according to the local requirements of the country mentioned. We have subdivided our localization into 3 general groups, which would be control and management of issued documents or the consecutive documents, the section related to taxes and withholdings, and the generation of tax returns or reports addressed to the SR. Starting with the control and management of consecutives, we have a section in which we can have the management of the consecutive and control of the information associated with the administration of CAI, whether it be, in this case, the sequentials of the documents to be issued or those associated with the documents to be received, or those associated with the documents to be received from our suppliers. Regarding the documents issued, we can quickly have the information of the CAIs that are related to the consecutive invoices, credit notes, and debit notes, the initial date and the final date that comprises the authorized. KI authorized in this case with the initial number and the final number. In addition to that, we will have in a quick way the last consecutive number used in a document issued. In the same way, we can also see we have the section to control the CIs that we have registered associated to our suppliers. In this case, it also gives us practical information or prior knowledge that we will report from our supplier's file, the initial date, final date, and alarms related to the expiration date, and the numbers that comprise the authorized ranges enabled for the registration of the invoices issued by our suppliers. Within the sales documents, in this case of sales invoices, we are going to take a document previously already filled out with information already loaded. Here we can see that we are talking about a sales invoice issued to an already informed customer. We have within our lines the item to be invoiced, quantities and related information, as well as the ISV tax associated with it, which by standard calculates the previously reported rates. We also have within the sales documents, we have included the item to be included, additional fields for purchase order, where applicable, additional information such as exempt purchase order, exempt registration and SAT registration, exempt registration and SAT registration. These fields will be visible in both the sales documents and purchase documents so that they can be reported according to the requirements of each industry or of each company. With this associated information, we can proceed to register our invoice. Here we proceed to register the associated invoice, and we are going in this case to look at the document we have just issued. First, in this case, to see the representation of the information. In a generic way, we have a document. This is the way in which we would be visualizing our output document. In this case, it is worth mentioning that it is important some fields, localization fields, that you are going to see in English language, but already with the implementation in each company, the fields will be reflected in the native language of each solution, in this case Spanish for Honduras. So we observe the line of our format that we have in a generic way for the issued documents. In this case, it is an invoice. We will see here the sales invoice legend with the information of the CI associated to the issued document, all the information related to the authorization, the effective and the consecutive number of the document we are issuing. We also have our customers' information, the lines of the services or products, the products in this case invoiced, the value in letters, the amounts associated with the tax in the corresponding item, and the mandatory and the required legend for the printing of the documents. In this case, we will print 3. Copies will be printed for each invoice registered, one with the original legend, the archive one, and the copy of obliged tribute. This same functionality is available for all sales documents. In this case, it would be when we have to generate credit notes and credit notes to our customer on the part of the documents that we receive, in this case to the related documents of purchase. Let's see the example in this case that we are going to receive. We are going to process an invoice from a supplier. From our supplier's file, we are going to get the associated CAI or the CAI related to our supplier. By default, it will bring us the CAI of preference that we have registered if this is a supplier with whom we usually have transactions. However, if we are going to proceed to make the registration of a new purchasing document which is not related to this CAI number, we can type in a new one, and it's the same case that we are going to have with suppliers with which we have not previously made any purchase. In this case, we will have to enter the CAI corresponding to the invoice we are going to process, In addition to the procedure of entering the invoices that we are going to receive, Business Central itself will validate that the consecutive that we are processing in this case matches with the one reported on the card. In this case, it makes a validation and indicates that the registered number is not within the authorized range. Since we validate in this KI that previously we already informed us by typing, that includes a billing, it includes an authorized invoicing that is within these ranges. It will validate us that a purchase document associated with this CI number, and that it is not within this reported range. Here already in this validation, we are going to make the correction of our document to be able to proceed with the corresponding registration. What other functionality do we have within our test? From the same purchase document, we are going to be able to make forecasts of the associated taxes. In this case, we are registering an invoice of purchase of business consultants. Based on the previous information of the associated ISVs, we are going to make the calculation, the amount associated, the amount that we are reporting. In this case, we are indicating that there are 4 hours of 150 lempiras for a total of 600 lempiras. Here we can, from the same purchasing document, make the provisions or appropriations of the retentions that are associated in this case. So here we have our line item that comprises our location. We include what are the retentions in the case of purchases, either for general purchases or fee withholding, For this example, we will indicate that it is a fee withholding that we are processing for this type, and it's going to do the calculation, the deduction that we would have to make for this example. In addition to that, we see that inside our invoice details section, we also have visible the fields of order, exempt purchase order, exempt record, and the exact, the corresponding SAG number or registration that would correspond. It is also important to note that our VAT accounting group includes the following products: the rates currently in effect for the ISV of Honduras, the concept of exempt and exonerated that would apply according to each particular case. We proceed to register our purchase invoice, in this case, and we are going to see, already taking into account that we have the control and the validation of the consecutive, we are going to see the behavior of the retentions and the coverage of withholding taxes for Honduras. If we look at the accounting movements associated with the transaction that we have just processed, we see that in the lines we are recognizing the amount of the purchase recorded, in this case, the ISV associated with it, ISV or the associated tax, indicating the ISV that we process from this purchase that we are registering. This would be in a bridge account, which for the example we call vendor withholding. We are indicating the percentage or the amount of retention that corresponds to this purchase and to the purchase of our account, or to our accounts payable. In this case, we are taking the total value of what we would have to pay for this purchase, the total value of what we would have to recognize for the purchase of the service the acquisition of the service that we just processed. And here we would have, these would be the accounting lines that we will be moving with the transaction that we just recorded. If we see the behavior of the retentions, because the recognition of the withholding is such at the moment we process the purchase. What we are doing is a recognition of the withholding, and at the moment we process the purchase, what we are doing is a recognition of the withholding. And at the moment of generating the payment of this invoice, in this case I am going to go to one of our payment journals to process a payment. Here we are going to indicate the number of the same document we have just processed to see the behavior of the withholding at this point. We fill in all the associated lines to the same information that we are processing. It is going to be the payment of our bank accounts in this case, and select the document that we just processed in the document that we just recorded. We are going to select it from our registered documents. Immediately, if we come in record preview to perform the accounting movements associated with when we generate the payment, we will effectively be recognizing the outflow of our account payable from the bank to the supplier's account, and it will automatically make a reversal of the withholdings, a reclassification of the withholdings, In this case, we will indicate that the account that was provisioned in our bridge account as vendor withholding tax would go to an account, which would be the account in which we are effectively recognizing the withholding we made to our supplier. And this account is the one that we would liquidate at the moment of making the payment before the fiscal entity, before the tax entity. In this way, we would be effectively relating the withholdings to or recognizing the withholdings previously recorded at the time the associated payments are being made. Generically, when we are processing a payment that is related to or includes withholdings associated to it. The generation of our withholding voucher will be processed, which will show us the certificate that will be delivered to our supplier, specifying the transaction and the amounts with all the data associated to it. We contemplate the issuance or execution from Business Central of the documents or the different reports required by the auditing entity. From our location, we will be able to download in Excel format reports related to declaration of purchases, 1% withholding on purchases, fee withholding, monthly declaration of purchases, as well as the generation of reports associated with purchase ledgers and sales ledgers. This would be, in a general way, a little of what you will find in our location. If you require more information, we will be glad to provide it, and thank you in advance for your attention.